Have you ever just, looked down at your hands and wondered what they might be trying to tell you? Well, it turns out your fingernails can act like a personal health dashboard. So let's dive in and see what they have to say.
Today, we're going to play detective. We're going to decode the signals, the subtle little changes in color, texture, and shape that can actually give us some deep insights into our internal health. It's a mystery we're about to solve together.
And it all kicks off with this number, 0.1. What on earth could this possibly have to do with your well-being?
That's how many millimeters your nails grow on average every single day. Now, that might not sound like much, but it creates this incredible timeline, a literal slow-motion record of how your body has been doing. It's pretty fascinating when you stop and think about it.
Okay, before we go any further, just a quick but really important heads up. Everything we're about to talk about is for your information. This is not, and I repeat, not a substitute for real medical advice. So please, if you have any concerns, talk to a qualified health professional.
All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and open this window to our health and take a peek inside. We're going to start with one of the most obvious signs your nails can give you. First up, clues written in color. I mean, from yellow to blue, every different shade can tell a totally different story about what's going on inside.
So, if you notice your nails have a yellowish tint, the number one suspect is usually a fungal infection hanging out in the nail bed. But it can also be a telltale sign of heavy smoking or even a result of constant nail biting, which can let all sorts of bacteria build up. And what about those little white spots we all seem to get? A lot of us just brush them off, and yeah, a lot of the time it's just from a minor bump. But they could also point to other things, like maybe you're being exposed to harsh chemicals, or you're low on certain nutrients, or even have too much calcium. And in some pretty rare cases, they can be a flag for more serious issues.
Okay, now this slide is so important. Please pay close attention here. We need to talk about the huge difference between a harmless little bruise and a dangerous streak. A little blue or purple spot, that's usually just a tiny bruise under the nail from an injury, and it'll grow out. But a dark brown or black line that doesn't go away, or even gets darker, that is something you need to get checked out by a doctor, like right away. It can be a sign of melanoma. Now, if your nails are looking kind of bluish or even grayish, that could be a big clue that you've got some poor circulation going on. Basically, it means the blood under your nails isn't getting quite enough oxygen.
And because this is all about circulation, it's definitely a sign you shouldn't ignore. A doctor is going to want to check you out to rule out some potentially serious issues like osteoarthritis or even arterial disease.
Seeing some red under your nails? A lot of the time, this just happens from biting them a little too hard. But here's the key. If you're also seeing swelling or if they feel painful, that's your body's signal to go see a doctor.
Okay, so we've looked at color. Now, let's talk about texture, because how your nails feel can be just as revealing as how they look.
So to really get texture, we first have to talk about keratin. This is the powerhouse protein that makes up about 90% of your nail. It's the stuff that gives them their structure and their strength.
So it kind of makes sense, right? If your nails are cracking or feel really brittle, it's often a keratin issue. Some of this is just a natural part of aging. Our bodies make less of it over time. But studies have also shown a really strong link between brittle nails and not getting enough vitamin D, which is super important for making that keratin.
You ever notice tiny little dents or pits on the surface of your nails? This is actually pretty common in people who have skin conditions like psoriasis or eczema, but it can also be caused by external damage, like the stress from using really harsh nail polish removers that just weaken the nail.
And what about ridges or grooves? Well, these can be caused by almost anything, from a simple injury to the nail to an autoimmune issue, or even just a lack of moisture or a vitamin deficiency.
Okay, now let's talk about a super common habit that can have a huge impact on your nail health. Yep, nail biting.
Nail biting. It often just starts as this impulse, right? Maybe you're anxious or stressed or just bored. But doing it all the time goes way beyond a simple bad habit. Short term, you can cause bleeding and some nasty infections. But over the long haul, you can actually cause permanent damage that stops the nail from ever growing properly again. So after looking at all of these clues, from the color to the texture to our own habits, what is the big takeaway here? What does this all really mean for you? It really just comes down to this one simple but powerful idea. Your nails aren't just there for decoration. They are a living part of your body, and they're reflecting what's happening on the inside.
So the final verdict is this. Pay attention, observe your nails, be aware of any changes that seem to stick around.
And please remember, what we've talked about here are potential clues. They are not diagnoses. If you see something that worries you, the absolute best thing you can do is go talk to a doctor.
At the end of the day, your body is constantly sending you signals. The real question is, are you taking the time to listen?